Picture this, you spend nearly an hour outside in below-zero wind chill, shoveling a parking spot out of 8 inches of snow. Your fingers are numb, your back feels broken, but finally, you've carved out a space so your wife's car can get to the store. You leave for an hour, and when you come back, your neighbor has stolen the very spot you bled for. What happened next? Let's just say his car ended up looking more like a frozen monument than a vehicle. If you've ever had your hard work stolen, or if you know the sting of someone disrespecting you, you're going to love this one. Subscribe now, drop a like, and comment your own revenge story, because today's tale is about the coldest, pettiest, most satisfying revenge you'll ever hear. Let's get into it. It started with the kind of winter storm that makes you question why anyone chooses to live in the north. 8 inches of heavy snow had blanketed our apartment complex overnight, muffling the world in icy silence. The air was so sharp it felt like needles in my throat every time I inhaled, and the wind chill drove the temperature down into the negatives. The kind of cold where even steel seems to shiver. Now, usually, I'd just fire up my SUV, it's all-wheel drive, built for this nonsense. But, of course, life has a way of throwing curveballs. My SUV was down, sitting useless in the lot with a mechanical issue I couldn't fix until payday. That meant we had to rely on my wife's car, a little Toyota Prius. Great on gas, terrible on traction. I'm not exaggerating when I say it slides if there's so much as a raindrop on the pavement. But groceries don't magically appear in the fridge, so out I went, shovel in hand, to dig that Prius out. Have you ever shoveled for 45 minutes straight in sub-zero weather? It's like running a marathon with ankle weights. My gloves soaked through with melted snow, my nose was raw from the wind, and sweat stung my eyes even though the rest of me was freezing. I kept thinking, why am I the one doing this? But then I'd glance at the Prius, practically buried, and remember we didn't have a choice. By the end, my back felt like someone had driven an ice pick straight into it. My arms shook with fatigue. But when I finally stood back and looked at what I'd done, I felt a flicker of pride. I had cleared one perfect, beautiful parking space. The kind of space that screamed, someone worked hard for this. Don't touch it. We hopped into the Prius, teeth chattering, and gingerly pulled out. The car fishtailed slightly on the way, but after all that effort, we were moving. We went to the store, got what we needed, and I figured the hardest part of my day was over. I could not have been more wrong. When we came back about an hour later, I saw it immediately, and at first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. There, in the very spot I had shoveled with my frozen, aching hands, sat my neighbor's car. Not just any car, this was the guy who always strutted around like he owned the place. Mid-30s, smug little smirk, always blasting music loud enough to rattle my windows. The type of neighbor who leaves his trash bags next to the dumpster instead of inside it. Everyone has a neighbor like that, someone who thinks community rules don't apply to them. And now? Now he was parked in my spot. The spot I had nearly broken my back to clear. It felt like a slap in the face. My stomach dropped, then flipped into a knot of anger. My hands curled into fists without me even thinking about it. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, which is saying something considering it was below zero outside. Here's the thing, technically, our apartment complex doesn't have assigned parking. It's first come, first served. But there's an unspoken rule everyone respects: if you shovel out a spot, that spot is yours. Period. End of story. You don't just swoop in and take it. So for him to be sitting there, all cozy in the fruits of my labor? That wasn't just inconsiderate. It was disrespect. I stood there staring at his car, heart pounding in my ears. 100 thoughts ran through my head all at once. Do I knock on his door? Do I demand he move? Do I risk an argument that could turn into weeks of bad blood with a neighbor I have to see every day? Or, do I swallow it, find another spot, and let him walk all over me? That thought stung worse than the icy wind. Because it wasn't just about the parking spot. It was about principle. About respect. About not letting someone erase an hour of my hard work with the turn of their key. That's when a different kind of thought crept in. Darker. Sharper. What if I don't let it slide? I walked back into my apartment, my boots crunching on the snow, and went straight to the kitchen. Grabbed 2-gallon jugs. Filled them to the brim with water. When I stepped back outside, my wife gave me a look. "What are you doing?" she asked, but I just shook my head and said, "Trust me." I walked right up to his windshield and poured the water across it in one slow, deliberate motion. The hiss of the water hitting the freezing glass was instant. It crystallized before my eyes, spiderwebbing into a sheet of ice. I grinned. Then I went back inside, refilled the jugs, and did it again. And again. And again. Until I had poured nearly 10 gallons of water across every inch of his windshield, wipers, and mirrors. By the time I was done, his car looked like it had been gift-wrapped in ice. Not dangerous. Not destructive. But definitely inconvenient. I whispered, "Don't take my spot again," and went back inside. That night, I slept like a baby. There was something oddly therapeutic about knowing I hadn't let him walk all over me. My back still hurt, my arms still ached, but my soul? My soul was warm. And I'll admit it, I was excited for morning. Sure enough, as the sun came up, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of scraping. I peeked through the blinds, careful not to be seen, and there he was. Bundled up in a thin jacket, muttering under his breath, red-faced from the cold, trying desperately to chip through the layers of ice on his windshield. He scraped one patch, only to reveal another thick sheet beneath it. He poured hot water, only to have it refreeze almost instantly. He stomped his feet, shouted into the air, and kept hacking away with that tiny little scraper like he was mining for gold. Every few minutes, he'd stop, panting, looking utterly defeated. Then he'd go at it again. And me? I stood there sipping my coffee, watching through the window with a grin so wide it hurt. It wasn't just about the inconvenience. It was about balance. About justice. He had disrespected me, not with words, not with violence, but with entitlement. And I had answered in kind. I didn't key his car. I didn't slash his tires. I didn't do anything permanent. But I reminded him actions have consequences. And judging by the fact that he never parked in one of my shoveled spots again, the message landed. Watching him that morning was pure catharsis. Every angry mutter, every frustrated scrape of his useless plastic tool, every puff of his frosty breath, it was like a symphony of karma. And I savored every note. Sometimes the sweetest justice doesn't come from shouting matches or fights. It comes from cleverness. From patience. From turning the very environment against someone who wronged you. That day, I learned that the coldest revenge can also be the most satisfying. What about you? Have you ever had a neighbor cross the line, or someone disrespect your hard work? Drop your story in the comments, I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this tale of frozen justice, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who could use a laugh. Until next time, stay warm out there, and remember, don't take someone else's parking spot.